Imagine the vast Roman Empire, stretching from the Sahara Desert to the forests of Germania. An empire of conquests and grand cities, yet also marked by wars, famine, plagues, and natural disasters. To cope with these hardships, Romans of all classes, from soldiers to emperors, turned to substances capable of easing pain, bringing pleasure, or provoking extraordinary experiences. Alcohol, opium, cannabis, mushrooms, and various psychoactive herbs were part of everyday life. Used both for medicine and leisure, these drugs did not carry the stigma they have today. They were cultivated, sold, and consumed openly, integrated into commerce, banquets, and even religious rituals. In this video, we explore how these substances influenced Roman society, revealing a little-known side of the empire, the world of drugs that shaped Rome's daily life, medicine, and even politics.
Wine was far more than a simple beverage in the Roman Empire. It was present in virtually every aspect of life, in religious celebrations, funerals, luxurious banquets, and even in the popular festivities of ordinary people. It was not merely about quenching thirst. Wine had symbolic, social, and, for many, therapeutic functions. For the Romans, moderate consumption was associated with strength, health, and even virility. There were connoisseurs, such as certain poets and senators, capable of identifying the year and region of production of a specific wine, as if they were evaluating a liquid work of art. Wine was, in a way, a measure of social prestige and sophistication. But excess came with consequences. Philosophers like Seneca and writers like Pliny the Elder warned about the dangers of uncontrolled consumption. Pliny described the effects of drinking too much with vivid detail: dull eyes, trembling hands, disturbed sleep, dreams of forbidden lust, and behaviors that could lead to crimes or even death. He saw drunkenness not only as a physical problem, but as a reflection of human weaknesses, the revelation of desires and impulses that reason would normally restrain. The Roman elite, of course, was not immune to the temptations of alcohol. Mark Antony, the famous politician in general, was known for his excessive consumption of wine, which, according to historical accounts, affected his decisions and his reputation. On the other hand, physicians of the time, such as Galen, warned that children should not be exposed to alcohol, anticipating the risks the drink could pose to future generations. Even so, wine remained a constant in Roman life, used to relax after long days, strengthen the body, enliven festivities, and even accompany religious rituals. The difference compared to modern times is that alcohol was not merely a private indulgence. It was part of the cultural fabric of the empire, openly accepted and practiced both in the streets of Rome and in the imperial halls. Wine was, in a sense, the first link between pleasure, medicine, and society, a reflection of how the Romans understood the body and the mind, and of how the line between recreational and medicinal use was not always clear.
If wine was present at banquets and festivals, opium reigned in bedrooms, healers' homes, and medical offices. Cultivated from the poppy plant, opium was one of the best-known and most versatile drugs of ancient Rome, used both to relieve pain and to induce deep sleep. The Romans did not see opium merely as a recreational substance. It was a medical tool, employed in treatments for insomnia, chronic pain, epilepsy, liver diseases, and even scorpion stings. Famous physicians like Galen described its applications while also warning about the risks of overdose. Their empirical knowledge was impressive. They understood that excessive doses could lead to loss of consciousness, delirium, and even death. Emperors, too, were cautious users. Marcus Aurelius, for example, followed the principles of Stoicism, which valued temperance. To ensure he could sleep without compromising his judgment, he took opium mixed with honey, adjusted daily by the imperial physician. This practice shows that for some Romans, drug use was not synonymous with addiction, but with control and precision. Opium also had a darker side. It was sometimes used for suicide or political poisoning. Nero, infamous for his cruelty, is said to have poisoned his stepbrother Britannicus using opium disguised in a drink during a banquet, eliminating a rival to the throne. These stories illustrate how thin the line could be between medicinal, recreational, and lethal use, and how power could rely as much on a plant as on a sword. Roman knowledge about opium was remarkable. Greek physicians like Nicander of Colophon and Dioscorides documented the effects of overdoses and methods to try reversing opium-induced coma. Nicander suggested shaking or physically stimulating the person to counteract the fatal drowsiness, while Dioscorides, considered the father of pharmacognosy, was more direct: it kills. Thus, opium was simultaneously a healing drug, a recreational remedy, and a political weapon. It was part of daily life, as present in gardens and markets as in the Roman imagination. This practice reveals a fascinating aspect of Roman society: the awareness that certain plants held power over the mind and body, and that such power could be used in many ways: therapeutic, pleasurable, or deadly. Beyond opium, the Romans explored an impressive variety of psychoactive plants, many of which combined medicinal properties with hallucinogenic effects. Mandrake, belladonna, absinthe, henbane, and even the well-known Narcissus daffodil were not merely botanical curiosities. They were ingredients in potions, wines, and mixtures that could alter the mind and provoke profound experiences, some pleasurable, others dangerously delirious. These plants were used for euphoria, pain relief, mental stimulation, and even as sleep aids. Absinthe and wormwood, for example, were known for their stimulating and psychotropic properties. Mandrake and belladonna, on the other hand, were capable of causing intense hallucinations and delirium due to the alkaloids present in their roots and leaves. For this reason, their use required careful knowledge. Small doses could bring relaxation or creativity, but excess often led to madness or death. Wine was frequently the vehicle for these substances. Mixtures were prepared with honey, herbs, and other plants to make them more palatable, but also to enhance their effects. Some archaeological evidence, such as vessels found in Pompeii, indicates combinations of opium, cannabis, and henbane, showing that the Romans knew how to create sophisticated psychoactive cocktails with controlled effects for parties, rituals, or rest. Poets and philosophers of the time, such as Lucretius, may have had contact with these preparations. Records suggest that the use of certain plant extracts could trigger episodes of delirium and even bouts of madness. Although not all accounts can be confirmed, it is clear that Roman awareness of the effects of psychoactive plants was surprisingly advanced. These herbs also had medicinal roles. Pliny the Elder described the use of several of them for pain, insomnia, digestive issues, and even parasitic infestations. But he also warned of adverse effects, a constant duality in Roman pharmacology: cure and danger, pleasure and death. What is most fascinating is that knowledge of these plants was not limited to the elite or to physicians. Part of this understanding was available in markets, gardens, and popular festivals, showing that the use of drugs, both recreational and medicinal, was part of everyday life in the Roman Empire. For the Romans, these plants were tools to expand the mind, relieve pain, and in some cases, manipulate or control political and personal situations. Cannabis was a highly valued plant in Rome, used for both medicinal and recreational purposes. Pliny the Elder reported that it helped relieve pain, digestive problems, and even parasites, calling it the plant of laughter for its ability to generate pleasure and joy when mixed with wine. Consumption was not always direct. Many Romans used fumigation, inhaling the smoke of heated seeds, a method inspired by nomadic peoples of Asia. This allowed for controlled psychoactive effects without ingesting the plant outright. Beyond pleasure, cannabis was recognized for its influence on impulses, as observed by Diocondas, a physician who accompanied Nero's army. It was widely accepted and available in markets, demonstrating that drug use was part of everyday Roman life, integrated into medicine, entertainment, and culture.
Beyond opium and cannabis, the Romans explored other substances that profoundly altered perception and consciousness. Among them were hallucinogenic mushrooms and certain lesser-known plants capable of inducing delirium, euphoria, and intense visions. These drugs were not merely recreational. They were used in rituals, festivities, and occasionally by emperors seeking relaxation or inspiration. Psychoactive mushrooms, what we now call magic mushrooms, were already consumed in small doses to induce vivid dreams and out-of-body experiences. Accounts suggest that some emperors and members of the Roman elite enjoyed these experiences, although in a controlled manner. In addition to mushrooms, fish, such as the so-called dream fish found in the Mediterranean, were eaten or specially prepared to provoke hallucinations. The idea that certain foods could alter the mind was widely known. Other plants like mandrake, belladonna, henbane, and the narcissus daffodil also produced significant psychoactive effects. When ingested or inhaled, they released compounds such as atropine, which could generate euphoria, delirium, and hallucinations. Some of these plants were mixed with wine or honey to soften their bitter taste and facilitate consumption. The effects of these drugs were widely observed and documented. Poets and philosophers of the time, such as Lucretius, may have been affected by preparations of these plants, experiencing episodes of delirium or erratic behavior. However, the Romans had no way to measure doses with modern scientific precision, so each use carried risks, reinforcing the need for knowledge and caution. Even so, these experiences were not seen as taboo. They were part of daily life and were integrated into rituals, banquets, and medical practices. The use of psychoactive drugs reveals the curiosity and courage of the Romans in exploring the limits of the mind, blending medicine, leisure, and spirituality in a way that would be considered advanced centuries later.
In the Roman Empire, drug use spanned all social classes. There was no modern stigma. It was common to find opium, cannabis, wine, and other substances for sale in the markets, alongside herbs and spices. Drugs were present in festivals, religious rituals, banquets, and even in daily medical treatments. Specialists and healers advised on dosages and preparations, and this knowledge was widely shared. This integration shows that, for the Romans, drug use was not merely recreational or medicinal, it was part of the very social and cultural structure of the empire. Drug use in the Roman Empire reveals a society that understood deeply the power of plants over the body and mind. From wine at festivals to opium in imperial chambers, and from psychoactive herbs at banquets to hallucinogenic mushrooms in rituals, the Romans explored pleasure, healing, and consciousness as part of everyday life. This relationship shows that long before modern discussions about drugs, the Roman Empire already understood that natural substances could serve as medicine, as pleasure, and even as political weapons. Amid the empire's glories and tragedies, drugs were a constant presence, silent, powerful, and revealing of the complexity of Roman life.